All right, so this video is to help you to understand how to do a really good job on your Rocks and Minerals Free Choice project. And so you just took your test, and this is over 2 of the 3 same standards as your test. So even though the test was not retakeable, this project is revisable if you end up needing to do that. So let's start with the rubric. The rubric is how I'm going to score you. And so as we look together, there we go. It's going to be scored for standards 3 and 4. So standard number 3 is all about being able to identify and classify minerals. So you have to show me, and notice this phrase, a deep understanding of the 4 traits of minerals and what the relationship between rocks and minerals is. So you're going to hopefully be showing mastery of that through your free choice project. Now standard 4 is all about how the rock cycle works. So knowing how the 3 rock types are formed and also how one actually can turn into another in the rock cycle. So other than the 2 academic standards, this is going to also be a quality of work score for you. And so when I judge quality of work, I'm looking to say, is it your best work? Or is it something that is thrown together at the last minute? And I'm expecting that it'll be your best work. Also, I'm looking to see, did you address the reflection questions that are going to be posted on Google Classroom? And did you really address those completely? So now let me show you some other things that I have for you that will help facilitate this. So when I say it's a free choice project, it is what it sounds like. You have lots of choice over what it is you want to create. So I'm telling you what you have to show you know. You are picking what to actually do. So let me go up here and I think it's this, no, not that, hang on, and not that. I'm not doing my best, am I? There we go. Okay, so this is the first important step in doing a really good free choice project. You have to organize what it is you have to show you know. So your first small assignment associated with this project is to answer, just in the basics, the 4 prep questions. And by prep questions, I mean you're preparing to create the project. So you saw these on the rubric, the 4 traits of minerals, the relationship between rocks and minerals, that means what they have to do with each other, how all 3 rock types are formed, and then how does this connect and go to a cycle. So that's what it is you have to show. Now I have for you today an example one, and I wanted to sit down here on my stool and show it to you. And this is actually a children's book. So a children's book is one of many choices that you're going to have. And you may do a children's book. It may not have this exact plot, but I think you're going to see how I've shown everything that we need to show we know. Okay, so my book is called A Mineral Love Story. And it starts like this. Once upon a time, billions of years ago, a mineral love story began. 2 minerals, Max and Melissa, had been very lonely. They both wanted to form a rock family. And here we have, I'm lonely, thought Max. I'm lonely, thought Melissa. One day, Max's spirits were brightened. He spotted Melissa and knew she was just the kind of mineral he would like to spend his life making a rock family with. She was solid, non-living, natural, and made of beautiful purple crystals. So right there, I worked in the 4 traits of minerals. So our story continues. Melissa had the same loving feelings for Max. Both of them realized they could not start making a rock family on their own. It would take forces within the earth to give them a family of their dreams. All of a sudden, both Max and Melissa felt an increase in temperature. It was just the force they'd been waiting for. Before you knew it, their dream had come true. Max and Melissa joined together in a melted mineral mix called magma. And it says down here that Max and Melissa are in here. So Max and Melissa, the minerals, had melted into magma. In a few million years, the magma began to cool. Max and Melissa now had a son. His name was Iggy. He's an igneous rock. Now, Iggy was just resting on Earth's surface. All of a sudden, a strong gust of wind was followed by a driving rain. It felt like 100 hammers chipping away at him. Iggy cried in pain. The wind and rain had taken quite a toll on Iggy. He was no longer an igneous rock, but just a bunch of rock chunks called sediment. Poor Iggy, look what happened to him. Before long, the sediment got smushed together in a new rock. Iggy igneous had formed into a new type of rock called Sally sedimentary. One moment, pages are sticky. Sally had a wonderful life, spending thousands of years in a riverbed. After a while, she was buried in the ground. As millions of years passed, she was buried deeper and deeper. Sally began to feel hotter and also felt the pressure of the layers of rock above her. And you can see Sally's buried in there. Before Sally knew it, she was transformed into another type of rock. She was not completely melted, so she did not become an igneous rock. She just changed form a bit and turned into a metamorphic. Her name was Maggie. Maggie Metamorphic got buried deeper and deeper in the earth. There was a lot more heat and pressure. Maggie panicked as she felt herself begin to melt into magma. "Ah, I'm melting," she says. Can you guess who appeared as Maggie was melting? You're right. Her mineral parents, Max and Melissa, appeared in the melted mineral mix called magma. They had been with their children all along. Max and Melissa decided that they would like to make rock babies again. They had to wait on the right mix of conditions for that to happen. Maybe this time they would make sedimentary babies before metamorphic. Maybe one type of sedimentary rock could turn into another. Anything is possible with minerals who love each other and the rock cycle. So that is the end of my story. Now, what makes this double fours? And by double fours, I mean, what makes this earning 4s on the rubric for the academic standards? It's because I don't just show a basic understanding of these prep questions. I'm able to create characters in a plot to show that I really understand it deeply and to show mastery. But you might be sitting at home thinking, "Oh, Mrs. Fickus, I don't think I'm into children's books." So I wanted to show you a big old list. I think this is the right tab, or maybe not. Or maybe not. Here we go. I wanted to show you a big old list of things that you can do, okay? And part of your preparation homework is to pick what you want. Now, by the way, when I approve your idea, if you are not feeling it, you don't need my permission to change ideas. Any of these have potential to show a deep understanding. Okay, so here are some options. A short story. Sometimes students will ask me, and I'm not a fan of this question, well, how short can it be? Oh, sounds like a lazy question. Not that short. I mean, you still have to have characters and a plot to show deep understanding. It's just you don't need to illustrate like you would with a children's book. Okay, a detailed timeline. Not just a basic timeline, but a detailed timeline. You know how you would have like a timeline of someone's life, right? So you could maybe do a timeline of a rock or mineral life. Some of you, maybe all of you at this point, have done a life soundtrack in language arts, so I think you could do a life soundtrack style free choice project. A fictional interview, like sometimes you'll see this in a magazine where it'll be, say, I don't know, Tom Brady has been interviewed by Sports Illustrated, and it'll say, Sports Illustrated, so Tom Brady, how was it to move to the Buccaneers? And Tom Brady would say, I'll be honest, I don't miss Bill Belichick at all, something like that. But I don't know that you'd interview Tom Brady, right? You'd probably personify a rock or mineral and interview them, kind of talk show style. So newspaper or magazine articles, be careful here. You cannot show a deep understanding if you just type out the prep questions. Newspaper and magazine articles have a catchy headline, right? So maybe the catchy headline is volcanic eruption, or hurricane whatever has caused major erosion. You have to think of a catchy headline and write it as a news story. Now this one sounds sad. An obituary. It's a life story you write after someone has died. Students do this a lot with success on this one. You would probably want to have 4 obituaries, right? For all 3 rock types plus minerals. It's really telling their life story, usually as a picture. A 3-dimensional model is 100% perfect for this. You remember making 3D models of sedimentary turning into metamorphic, it would be pretty easy to make a 3D model and very effective of the entire rock cycle. You just need to make sure you label things or do like a paragraph description of what everything is in your model. Drawings and paintings, that could definitely work, but you have to make sure it's showing the deep understanding and showing all the prep questions. What if you just paint a volcano? Not enough, right? Or draw a volcano. You've got to do detailed drawings to show all 4 prep questions. So a flip book, not to be a turkey, but it's a book you flip, and it shows motion. Now, you have to love drawing to do this because you have to do many, many drawings to get that to work. Comic strip is a good one, or a comic book. I think you could definitely turn the rock types into different characters to do a comic. Be careful on a board game. It cannot be taking little cards and writing the prep questions and saying, here's my game. I once had a student make Rockopoly, like Monopoly, and every property had to do with the rock cycle. Like I remember there was an erosion alley. So like you really have to be creative to get 4s on that. A game show. So let's say you invite 3 friends to socially distance at your home, and you're going to be like Alex Trebek and lead them in Jeopardy, and you wrote all the questions and created the whole game show. It's your work, right? There are no group projects. So your friends might help you to be a character on a game show, but it's not a group project. Keep that in mind. Oh, look at that. A song. That one can obviously work. Now you can't use my exact song, right? And that could be where you just type the lyrics and say to the tune of, or you could actually perform it like a music video. A play script or a puppet show, those could definitely work. I love this idea. Menu. So you know, if you go to restaurants, they have descriptions of the food. So like, let me give you an example, right? If you're thinking of our sedimentary creation, a few of you thought it looked kind of like a sandwich, right? So you could maybe on your menu have a sedimentary sandwich, and in your description of how delicious it is, you could describe how it's formed. And just taking the prep questions and thinking, well, what could I put on my menu? What could I name my restaurant that would be catchy and creative and show a deep understanding? An advertisement. So think about what might be advertised that connects to rocks and minerals, like maybe advertisement for a landscaping company. You see lots of this in landscaping. Poetry. Some students say, can I combine poetry with something else? And the answer is yes. A lot of times students will combine poetry and drawings, so like illustrating their poetry. It doesn't have to all be one poem. You could make a collection of poetry to show a deep understanding. Photography, like making a scrapbook or a family album. Remember, we have pet rocks and a pet family. So this photography could really work for this when you're finding different rock types to use. A letter to the editor is actually a complaint letter, editor of a newspaper. And so it could be a certain rock was complaining. Like, what might a rock be sick of? All the heat down in the earth. It's so hot here. I'm overheating. I need air conditioning. You know, like it's a complaint letter. And then a crime report. Oh my. There are actually a lot of crimes that could relate to the rock cycle. Murder. Maybe theft could be worked in, right? So it could be a crime story or an actual crime report. And then cooking or baking. I've had students before that have baked cookies and then described how all the different types of cookies they baked related to the rocks. Like certain rocks or certain cookies represented sedimentary based on their characteristics, certain ones igneous, and so on. A comparison project. This one, it shows a deep understanding. So you could compare rocks and minerals to something that you're interested in. For example, I've had a student do a comparison project to dirt bike racing, and like the tires on the track were like erosion, for example. So you might think of something you like, and then how can I compare it to rocks and minerals? And usually students will do like a picture collage of comparisons there. Now, can you think of other ideas? You can. This is not an exhaustive list, but you have to remember this. This cannot be a basic rewrite of those 4 prep questions. That's not a project. You have to show a deep understanding of all the prep questions in whatever you do. Okay, so if you've done your prep questions, you've picked the idea that you're leaning toward, and then you're working on it, keep in mind that I'm happy to look at what you have going so far and give you feedback. So at least get a start on it earlier than the due date so that I can do that for you in case you end up needing it. And then the very last step that you're going to take is going to be here. So this is actually turning in the project. So you're going to use this Google Doc. If you do something in writing, you can actually type it there. If you do it on a separate link, you post your link there. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Let's say you make a 3D model. All you put there is, I made a 3D model. If you make a 3D model and you're a digital student, you're going to have to post pictures here of the thing that you made that's a 3D model, for example. And so right here is where your product goes, your link to it, your pictures of it, right there. Now, the very end of this is super easy but important to do. It's part of your quality of work score. You are going to answer at the end of your project, what do you understand better now than you did before? What was easiest and most difficult about doing this project? And why do you think it is important for everyone to have a basic understanding of rocks and minerals? Another way to say that is, how's it useful in real life? Notice those should be incomplete sentences. So I'm happy to answer questions as you work on your project. I hope you pick something that you can have fun with. Best wishes.